Glad to have you join us on this edition of the show. The Internet of Things has been touted as one of those technologies that can help both individuals and organizations become more productive and effective. My guest on the show works in the IoT space and has a lot to share. We have much more lined up for you right after now. I am Chukwemeka Agbata, and this is Tech Trends.
I do think some digital currency will end up being the reserve currency of the world. I see a path where that's going to happen. After a 3-year journey of extensive study, consultations and testing, Nigeria, in a groundbreaking move, is finally piloting its own central bank digital currency, the eNaira.
That is it. That is
it. According to the Apex Bank, the eNaira is basically the same physical naira we know, but with more possibilities, as both will always be exchanged one-to-one.
Our eNaira is a journey that starts today. It is not a one-off event. It is a journey of possibilities. We will continue to refine, fine-tune and upgrade it. 33 banks are fully integrated and live on the platform. 500 million naira has been successfully minted by the CBN. 200 million naira has been issued to financial institutions. Over 2,000 customers have been onboarded on the platform, and over 120 merchants have successfully registered on the e-platform.
Cryptocurrency like the Bitcoin has dominated headlines, but the central bank's digital currency, which is basically a digital version of the existing national currency, is different. CBDCs, which are fast becoming commonplace globally, is a chance for Nigeria to speed up economic gains and the value of the naira.
The eNaira is the same thing like your physical cash naira. It is legal tender. It is not. It's not something that is contrived out of the blue. It is actually a digital version of your physical naira. That's what the eNaira is. So it's not different. It's as legal, it's as acceptable as a physical cash. The thing about your eNaira is that it's even safer because you can't lose it. It's not defacable. It is very difficult to steal as against the physical cash that you have.
The major difference between the eNaira and the regular naira is the fact that the eNaira is intangible. You will never be able to see it, you will never be able to touch it, but it has the same value, it is intangible.
One thing to note about the eNaira is that one doesn't necessarily have to be tech-savvy, although some level of digital literacy is needed. With a mobile device and reliable internet, it works just like the physical naira, but in a digitized form. Anyone can access their money wherever they are in the world.
Let's say you wanted to make a transfer of some money, or you wanted to, make a payment. All you need to do is get just as simple as the phone number of the recipient, and then or the person's wallet information. So, but it can even work with the phone number as the phases are rolled out. So all you need to do is to get either the phone number or the wallet information and then make your transfer. Now that person, interestingly, doesn't even have to own a bank account. They could either hold the funds on their phone or in their wallet and then spend it from there as they wish or as they desire.
2 applications, the eNaira Speed Wallet app and the eNaira Merchant Wallet, are available for download. Customers can fund their eNaira wallet from their bank account by transferring physical money from regular e-banking apps, retaining the same value. Plus, there are no costs on transactions. Currently, only bank account holders can access the eNaira by signing up with Nigeria's BVN bank identity. The next phase of the rollout will include the unbanked using Nigeria's national identity, NIN, which has now reached 60 million sign-ups. But is this a threat to cryptocurrencies like the Bitcoin? Is the launch of the eNaira an end to cryptocurrencies?
There are two different technologies. Cryptocurrencies are like tradable assets, right? The eNaira, it does not generate any interest. It's simply your legal tender. It's simply your Naira in digital form. However, going forward, you can buy your cryptocurrencies with the digital currency. And maybe in future, once the Naira stabilizes, it can become a stable coin. Or there can be versions of the eNaira that are stable coin backed by the Naira. So it's not a threat to cryptocurrencies. They're different things. They're not even the same. They're not even the same at all. You can't trade digital currencies. You can't turn into an asset. It is just a legal tender for exchange of goods and services. Cryptocurrencies will still be here. And don't forget that cryptocurrencies are defined by what the market defines it as. The market says these things are valuable today. Tomorrow, that may not be the case. But with eNaira, it will always be valuable because it's a legal tender.
The eNaira is centralized. And one of the perks of trading in cryptocurrencies is the decentralization. So that is something that has excited a lot of people. Now, as we all know, Nigerians and people around the world have benefited from the volatility of cryptocurrencies. People have made money, people have lost money. And because the central bank digital currencies like the eNaira are sort of stable because they maintain the current value of the country, they wouldn't be a threat to cryptocurrencies. Secondly, there are cryptocurrency platforms. There's some of us that believe that the currencies that represent these blockchain platforms will continue to do well and their value will increase. So therefore, everybody's looking for a lucrative investment. There's no success in business without a little measure of risk, is there? So, and Nigerians have proved that they are risk averse. So I think that they're still going to get involved in trading with cryptocurrencies.
On the eNaira website, there are 4 main features: a unified payment system through which customers can move money from their eNaira wallet, a bank account management feature that lets users monitor their wallet, check balances and transaction history, a contactless payment service to make in-store payments by scanning QR codes, and peer-to-peer payments that allow users send money to each other via a linked bank account or card.
Africa is doing catch-up, even with the third industrial revolution. So the government is trying to get us ready to push us towards an almost cashless environment, but with an equivalent that really works. At the moment, once you make any transactions on your bank account now, you are relying on the promise of NDIC, NIBs, and the banks, right? But with eNaira, it is actually money that is done. So you're actually doing real transactions. What we don't know about the eNaira is we don't know how to play out with the banks. We don't know how the people in rural communities will access it at the moment. It's only available on smartphones right now. So we'll start looking at how the implementation for phone number to phone number is going to happen. We also do not know what will happen in the next couple of months with respect to issuing the eNaira for interoperability with other digital currencies globally, with the pound, with the dollar as an example.
Data from the Central Bank Digital Currency Tracker states that a total of 81 countries are exploring a CBDC, but only 5 countries, the Bahamas, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, and St. Lucia, have now fully launched the digital currency. Nigeria's central bank is the first in Africa to pilot its first digital currency, joining 14 other countries in the world in the pilot stages of their own CBDCs. Large blue boxes that look like automated teller machines have been popping up across Kenya's capital, Nairobi. But instead of dispensing cash, they give out clean cooking fuel that is both good for the environment and safer to use than traditional wood or kerosene. In Kenya's capital, Nairobi, restaurant owner Miriam Kamau lifts a steaming ladle of food from a stove, burning locally produced ethanol, a fuel made from the byproducts of sugar production. She is one of about 200,000 customers of three-year-old Kenyan company Cocoa, who have replaced fuels like charcoal, kerosene, and liquefied petroleum gas with locally produced ethanol. Ethanol from agricultural waste helps cut down on greenhouse emissions, partly because consumers won't be using charcoal made from cutting down trees. The United Nations Environmental Programme says sugarcane bioethanol can reduce emissions by 40 to 62% compared to petroleum-derived fuels. Customers also like it because it's cheaper.
I operate for 7 years.
I think I was among the first people in this area to use it when it came into the market. Since I started using it 3 years ago, it's helped me a lot. I don't even know the price of cooking gas anymore.
Cocoa distributes its fuel using dispensers around Nairobi that allow customers to buy any amount of fuel using mobile money services. The potential market is huge. Around 900 million people in Africa use dirty fuel for cooking, contributing to air pollution that causes an estimated 500,000 premature deaths on the continent each year. That's according to the World Health Organization. Biofuels can be both economical and environmentally friendly, according to a Washington, D.C.-based think tank Competitive Enterprise Institute. But they have also sometimes been criticized. Big government subsidies in the US and Europe have distorted energy markets and led to sweeping changes in land use patterns with environmentally devastating consequences. Michael Wakoli, head of fuel operations at Cocoa, said their locally produced bioethanol is made of agricultural waste, sugarcane that has already been processed to make sugar, and molasses that would otherwise be thrown away.
I am using the waste of the product that was used to make sugar and molasses and so on to create something that I can still reutilize it again and recycle it. So all in a way to try and also meet up with the climatic requirements we have now, the climatic conditions now. We've known we have destroyed quite a bit of our forest coverage and so on and so forth. Ideally, we are trying to get to a position where we can return, if you like, dignity to the kitchen, okay? So I want you to think of cooking as an enjoyable experience. I want you to think of embracing technology as something that is supposed to be just normal. It's not something, we're not introducing something that is out of your reach. I want you to believe that these things can be done locally.
Kenya has given ethanol producers using sugar processing waste an exemption from the 16% value-added tax to encourage ethanol production to grow in tandem with the sugar industry, one of the nation's common crops. Cocoa plans to expand to 10 other Kenyan towns in the near future.
Coming up is my chat with Cesar Keluro, founder, Nanocentric Technologies. Stay with us.
Alexa, I'm home.
How much easier or interesting would things be if you could get all your devices or home appliances working just by talking to them? Well, this emerging reality is called the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, IoT, is a catch-all term for the growing number of electronics that aren't traditional computing devices, but are connected to the Internet to send data, receive instructions, or both. With the concept of Internet of Things, we are increasingly getting used to connecting everyday devices in our homes to the Internet and to each other to make the places we live and work more comfortable, economical, and safe. Well, this week's guest, Cesar Keluro, founder of Nanocentric Technologies, discusses how economies can benefit from IoT.
Cesar, glad to have you on Tech Trends today.
Yeah, nice meeting you, CFA. It's been a while.
Awesome. So tell us, what is IoT?
Okay, IoT is a sensor network of smart devices, that enables people, application systems to collect and share data. It's one of the most amazing technologies of those times, enable us to capture data and deploying that data to improve business outcomes. It's something inspiring, having given us the privilege to make access to out of reach places to enable us to gather sensitive data and deploy that data for business process automation and to drive profitable outcomes for businesses. It's an amazing time to explore this technology, having realized that we are privileged to be deploying sensitive applications, enabling us to drive conversations around how do we improve business process and how do we transform our pain points into data forms that improves collective business decisions making.
Yes, I mean, you've said a lot of things, right? But okay, let's look at some of the use cases of IoT. How can IoT be beneficial?
Okay, one of the experiences we've had in our conversation with our partner is this. We realized that the Dangote refinery, a greenfield project, we realized that such kind of project, should utilize digitalization. And when I mean digitalization, it's easy for you to build or for you to embed IoT into refineries of that sort because it's greenfield. So you can begin to build from ground as you're building the whole physical infrastructure. You can create a digital twin, enabling you to, to collect what they call predictive insight on how to improve maintenance, either periodically or set in certain forms, in order to, capture the whole process of the refinery itself and to, create better outcomes for business decision making. And the case in point is how we, plant IoT devices, IoT sensor devices to capture different parameters or different data points that we want to, grasp of so we can understand the whole way the refinery works for optimization purposes.
Okay, so you mentioned, that of a big business, but I'm just also wondering, how about the startups, the SMEs, the small businesses? What are some of the use cases for them?
Okay, regarding small businesses, we can look at inventory management itself, having some sort of IoT devices, in your inventory store can give you live stream about the state of things, the state of your inventory. At what level are they now? Are we seeing a decline in certain number of goods? Are we seeing an upsurge in an uptick in certain kind of products you're selling in the marketplace? We get to find out around how we can optimize what we have in the store. And the fact is, with data, you can do an amazing thing.
One of the things that I sort of wonder about is how would you describe the IoT industry in Nigeria? Is it growing? Is it stagnant? Is it still at the infancy stage? What would you say?
Okay, at this point in time, we're seeing a lot of upsurge in consumer IoTs, and that's what we call wearables. Having streams of data about your fitness state. We're seeing a lot of information around that, a lot of applications in that space itself. People have a lot of IoT devices on them, helping them to look at the state of their bodies. And that's the consumer IoT space itself. We've seen an upsurge in that area. But the transformation we're seeing in the market is the deployment of industrial IoT, which is an exciting field in its own. We consider consumer IoT to be overhyped because we're not looking at solving real problems. The shift in conversation is taking us to industrial IoT, which basically addresses industry concern and basically improves economic outcomes for peoples.
Yeah. Okay. You talked about industrial IoT and the like. So now, I mean, educate us more. But I'm thinking about is what percentage in a typical IoT project, for example, what percentage of the materials, the tools are sourced locally, and what percentage is imported? The reason why I ask this is just to know the local content component in any IoT project, so to speak. What are your take?
Sadly, in our market, we've not seen the kind of progress we expect. And that's because we have a gap. We have the talent gap. And also building hardware, it's one of the most difficult thing about IoT itself. You can easily itinerate around softwares, but hardware demands a lot of itinerations, a lot of piloting, and that's quite tough for a market like ours that is still growing. I can tell you that we do not have the capacity to build hardware solutions at this moment in time, but I can tell you that we have skilled hands who can build IoT software applications, and at the same time too, the key challenge is for us to begin to look at how do we domicile the building of hardware itself, and that's we hope to see as we build the necessary infrastructure to drive the next phase of this technology.
Okay, thanks for being honest in that question. I also get to worry about what we can do to ensure that we bring more hardware innovations and keep them in the country. But one of the articles I read that you published that sort of followed this interview was the one around the LPG industry. Just share a bit about that.
Okay, right now in our market, LPG is dominated by roadside sellers who constitute 30 to 40% of the distribution channel. They dominate the distribution channel to the end users. The conversation I had with the client was, we understand you do those things, you do research around technology, your partners build IoT applications and other technology solutions. We want to build the next generation infrastructure to deliver LPG to residential areas. And we started having that conversation, and we realized that some of the cylinders in the market are 5 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old cylinders in the market. And one of the issues we have in our market is leakages of cylinders, which basically exposes people to fire outbreaks, explosions, and all that. But what the IoT device sensors have been able to do is to capture that data, enabling us to have insights around usage, enabling us to address leakages, enabling us to peg usage at certain points, 10%, 50%, that streams that data, enables us to look at how do we, meet that end consumer's need, or in some virulent cases, how do we aggregate certain consumers and deploy LPGs to them efficiently. And that's, became a very fantastic use case. And over time, what we realized is this is doable. And, we ended up, start working on this thing, and it's been exciting. And suddenly we saw Newbank Energy in the market doing the same thing, and it got us excited. And what I would say now in these times, these are amazing times to deploy IoT solutions. But the key factor is we need to narrow it down to specific use cases. We need to be narrowed as to what pain points we're addressing. That's key to the success of IoT deployment.
Okay, finally, Caesar, tell me the sort of challenges that you are facing and how you intend to ensure that this industry becomes commercialized, if I may use that word.
Okay, I would like to see regulations around IoT platforms. The bulk of this data, it's ferried overseas, and we would like to begin to see how government applies certain data regulation rules in our market. We'd like to domicile data in our market. We'd like to begin to see conversations around specific use cases for, like the LPG we're seeing that, that is raising a lot of dust around how we can efficiently bring LPG to end users. I would like to see beyond regulations, I would like to see government's commitment to enable us have, hardware development capacity itself. And maybe certain parameters of the devices can be locally built, because we do not really need to depend on China for everything. We can begin to build capacity by, first of all, training our local workforce, upgrading our local workforce, so we can begin to domicile this technology in-house and begin to innovate in that regard.
Caesar, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, C.A. Agbata. Nice to meet you again.
As you've heard from the founder of Nanosecond Technologies, Caesar Keluro, IoT can bring about immense benefits to some sectors of the economy. However, what matters to a lot of Africans is the direct impact such emerging technologies can have on their daily lives and existence. Interesting to see how much of an impact IoT can make in Africa. That's our show for today. Remember, we live on social media at Tech Trends TV. You can watch these and previous editions of the show on Channels TV, YouTube, or cfablog.ng. For Tech Trends, I'm Chukwemeka Agbata.